Hello there, and welcome to Sleep and Wonder. As you settle in, allow your breathing to slow as if the day were gently dissolving, becoming quieter with each breath. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to follow, only a soft sense of space opening somewhere between waking and rest. Tonight, we drift into the world of deserts, wide open landscapes shaped by time, light, and stillness. Places where the earth speaks quietly, and change happens so slowly it almost feels like it isn't happening at all. Imagine yourself gently lifted, as if floating just above the land, not traveling, just gliding over sand, stone, and long shadows. Below, the desert stretches calmly, patterns drawn by wind and sun, marked by ancient paths of water and the quiet persistence of life. As we move slowly and effortlessly, your thoughts may begin to loosen, your attention softening, matching the unhurried rhythm of the landscape beneath you. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're softly invited to like or subscribe, helping others find their way here, one resting mind at a time. But for now, simply breathe in and breathe out. Let yourself drift as we begin this gentle passage into the silent, expansive world of deserts. There is a moment before the desert fully reveals itself, when the landscape begins to simplify. As you arrive, details slowly fall away. Trees become sparse, colors soften, sounds grow thinner, more distant. The air feels open, unobstructed, as if nothing stands between you and the horizon. This is often the first sign that you are entering a desert. Not a dramatic boundary, but a gradual easing into space, light, and quiet. Tonight, imagine that we are not walking but gently drifting above this landscape. There is no effort required, no path to follow closely. You are simply being guided slowly into one of the most misunderstood environments on Earth. When many people think of deserts, they imagine endless sand dunes beneath a burning sun. But deserts are not defined by sand nor by heat. They are defined by absence, specifically the absence of frequent rainfall. A desert is any region of the planet where precipitation is rare and unpredictable, where water arrives slowly, briefly, or not at all. This simple definition opens the door to a much wider world. Deserts can be hot or cold. They can be rocky, icy, or covered in fine dust. Some stretch across continents, while others exist quietly along coastlines or high plateaus. What they share is not appearance, but rhythm, a rhythm shaped by scarcity, patience, and time. As we drift deeper into this environment, the desert begins to feel less empty and more intentional. Every feature seems placed with care. Every organism appears deliberate. Nothing here is accidental. The ground below tells a story that unfolds slowly. Soil is thin, often mineral-rich and exposed. In many deserts, the surface is hardened by sun and wind, forming protective crusts that hold the land together. Beneath that surface, water may linger unseen, stored deep within rock or trapped in ancient layers laid down long before the desert existed as it does today. From above, you might notice how open the space feels. Deserts are landscapes of visibility. Distances are clear, forms are uncluttered. The eye can travel far without interruption, following gentle slopes, low ridges, and long, quiet plains. This openness affects the mind in subtle ways. Without dense vegetation or constant movement, the brain receives fewer signals. Attention softens. Thought slows. The desert does not demand focus, it invites release. As the light shifts toward evening, colors begin to change. The harsh brightness of day fades into warmer tones. Shadows lengthen. The land cools. This daily transition is one of the desert's defining rhythms. Dramatic temperature changes that occur not through sudden events, but through predictable cycles. Day and night matter deeply here. During daylight hours, the sun dominates the sky, delivering energy that shapes both land and life. At night, that energy is released back into the atmosphere and temperatures fall quickly. This constant exchange creates an environment where adaptation is essential and excess is unsustainable. Nothing in the desert grows without purpose. Plants that live here often remain dormant for long periods, waiting for the rare arrival of rain. When water finally comes, it is used efficiently and without delay. Seeds may lie inactive for years, responding only when conditions are just right. Growth happens in brief, concentrated bursts, followed by long stretches of stillness. Animals, too, follow this rhythm. Many are nocturnal, avoiding the heat of day. Others conserve energy by remaining motionless for hours, sometimes days. Movement is measured. Activity is intentional. From our gentle vantage point above the land, the desert begins to feel less like a place of absence and more like a place of balance. Nothing here is wasted. Wind shapes the surface gradually, carrying fine particles across vast distances. Over time, these movements carve dunes, polish stone, and expose layers of geological history. The desert holds some of the clearest records of Earth's past, precisely because so little disturbs it. In many regions, ancient riverbeds lie dry but visible, tracing paths once filled with water. Fossilized dunes reveal wind patterns from thousands of years ago. Rock faces display layers stacked patiently by time, each one marking a different climate, a different era. The desert remembers. As evening deepens, the land begins to settle. The air grows calmer. Heat stored in the ground slowly releases upward. This process creates a feeling of quiet stability, as if the landscape itself is exhaling. If you listen closely, not for sound but for absence, you may notice how still everything becomes. Deserts are among the quietest places on Earth, not because nothing happens here, but because so much happens slowly. This quiet is not empty. It is spacious. And in that space, the desert offers something rare: permission to rest without distraction. There is no urgency here, no rapid growth, no constant renewal, only continuity, the steady persistence of form, climate, and life adapting to limits. As we continue this journey together, we will explore how deserts form, where they exist across the planet, and how life, human and non-human, has learned to move in harmony with their rhythms. For now, simply remain here. Let your attention drift across the open land. Notice the way the landscape holds stillness without effort. Feel how the absence of excess creates room to breathe. This is the threshold of the desert, and beyond it, many quiet worlds are waiting to be explored. As we move a little deeper into the desert world, it becomes important to pause and gently clarify something fundamental. What truly makes a place a desert? Not sand, not heat, not emptiness. A desert is defined by water, or more precisely, by how rarely water arrives. In scientific terms, a desert is any region that receives very little precipitation over the course of a year. The exact threshold can vary slightly depending on classification, but the principle remains the same. Rainfall is scarce, irregular, and often unpredictable. Some years may bring brief moisture, others may bring almost none at all. This simple definition reshapes the image of deserts entirely. A desert can be hot, where the sun dominates the sky and evaporation happens quickly. But a desert can also be cold, where moisture is locked away as ice, snow, or frozen ground. In both cases, liquid water, the form most life depends on, is limited. As you drift above the planet, you begin to notice where deserts naturally appear. Many form beneath stable atmospheric zones, where air descends rather than rises. Descending air warms and dries, making cloud formation difficult. This is why many of the world's largest deserts sit near similar latitudes, forming loose bands around the Earth. Other deserts emerge in the shadows of mountains. When moist air rises to cross high terrain, it cools and releases precipitation on the windward side. By the time that air descends on the opposite side, it is dry. Over long periods of time, these rain shadow regions become deserts, not suddenly, but gradually. Coastal deserts form differently still. In some regions, cold ocean currents cool the air above them, limiting evaporation and cloud formation. Fog may be common, but rain is not. The land remains dry, even as the ocean lies close by. In each case, the desert is not created by a single factor, but by a balance or imbalance between atmosphere, geography, and time. From above, deserts often appear remarkably clean. Their surfaces are not cluttered with thick vegetation or layered organic debris. Instead, rock, mineral soil, and sand are exposed. This exposure allows geological features to remain visible for extraordinarily long periods. In many deserts, a footprint can last for weeks. A tire track can remain visible for years. Ancient paths once carved may endure for centuries. This persistence is not due to hardness, but to stillness. Without frequent rain, there is little erosion from flowing water. Without dense plant cover, roots do not constantly disturb the soil. Without regular cycles of freezing and thawing in some regions, the land remains stable. The desert preserves. Temperature plays a major role in shaping desert conditions, but not always in the way people expect. In hot deserts, daytime temperatures can be intense, yet nights often become surprisingly cool. In cold deserts, daytime temperatures may remain low year-round. What matters most is not the absolute temperature, but the range, the contrast between day and night. These fluctuations place strong demands on any form of life. Organisms must tolerate heat, cold, and dryness, often within the same 24-hour period. Over time, this pressure leads to remarkable adaptations, but it also limits abundance. In deserts, life is selective. Plants tend to be spaced far apart, each occupying its own small territory. Competition is reduced not because resources are plentiful, but because scarcity enforces distance. Roots may extend deep or wide, searching patiently for moisture. Leaves may be small, thick, or absent altogether, minimizing water loss. Animals adapt by conserving energy. Many avoid the heat of day, becoming active at dusk or night. Burrowing, resting, and stillness are common strategies. Movement is purposeful, never wasteful. As a result, deserts often appear empty at first glance, but emptiness here is deceptive. Life exists in layers, beneath the surface, within cracks, and during specific moments. After rare rainfall, deserts can transform briefly, with plants emerging, insects appearing, and animals becoming visible. These events may last days or weeks, then fade again into quiet. The desert does not rush. Another defining characteristic of deserts is clarity. Air in desert regions is often dry and stable, allowing for long visibility. Horizons feel expansive. Light behaves differently here, creating sharp shadows by day and soft gradients at dawn and dusk. At night, this clarity reveals the sky in extraordinary detail. Without moisture or clouds, stars appear brighter, more numerous, and closer. For much of human history, deserts served as natural observatories, places where the sky could be studied with the naked eye. This visual openness contributes to the psychological effect deserts have on people. With fewer visual interruptions, the mind relaxes its constant scanning. There is less to track, less to interpret. Attention spreads outward rather than tightening inward. Many people describe a sense of calm, introspection, or timelessness when spending extended periods in desert landscapes. This is not accidental. The desert removes excess. It offers a stripped-down version of the world, where form, light, and space become primary. In doing so, it invites a slower pace of thought, one that aligns naturally with rest. As we continue our journey, these defining qualities will help us understand why deserts appear across the globe in such different forms, and how they shape the landscapes, ecosystems, and cultures that grow around them. For now, remain with this understanding. A desert is not a place of nothingness. It is a place shaped by limits, and within those limits, a quiet order emerges. That order will guide us as we move onward. As our journey continues, the desert begins to reveal something quietly surprising. Deserts are not rare. They are not isolated. They are not confined to a single climate or continent. They are spread across the earth, woven into its surface in many different forms. If you were to look down at the planet from high above, you would begin to notice patterns. Vast regions where vegetation thins, where colors soften into pale browns, muted reds, cold grays, or chalky whites. These regions appear on every continent, shaped by atmosphere, latitude, oceans, and time. The Sahara stretches across North Africa, vast and ancient, shaped by shifting winds and long geological memory. Its dunes, plateaus, and rocky plains cover an area larger than many countries combined. Yet even here the landscape is not uniform. Sand seas give way to gravel deserts, stone fields, and isolated mountains rising quietly from the flatness. Farther south, the Namib Desert lines the Atlantic coast, one of the oldest deserts on Earth. Here, cold ocean currents keep the air dry, while fog rolls in softly at dawn, providing moisture without rain. Life in the Namib has learned to drink from the air itself. Across the Arabian Peninsula, deserts form a bridge between Africa and Asia. The Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, lives up to its name with immense dunes that shift slowly over time. Yet beneath the surface, groundwater tells stories of wetter eras long past. Moving east, deserts appear again in Central Asia. The Gobi Desert, often imagined as endless sand, is in fact largely rocky and cold. Winters here are harsh, temperatures dropping far below freezing. Snow may fall, but moisture remains scarce. The Gobi reminds us that deserts are defined by dryness, not heat. In Australia, deserts dominate the interior. The Great Victoria, the Simpson and the Tanami deserts form a vast mosaic of red earth, spinifex grass and ancient riverbeds. These landscapes have been shaped not only by climate, but by some of the oldest geological surfaces on the planet. In North America, deserts take on another character. The Mojave, Sonoran, Chihuahuan, and Great Basin deserts each follow different rules. Some are hot, some cold. Some bloom briefly with seasonal rains. Others remain austere year-round. The Sonoran Desert, for example, supports a surprising diversity of life, including towering saguaro cacti that stand like slow-moving sentinels beneath the sky. South America holds its own deserts as well. The Atacama Desert in Chile is one of the driest places on Earth. In some regions, rain may fall only once every several decades, yet even here life persists in subtle forms adapted to extremes of aridity and sunlight. And then there are the polar deserts. Antarctica is technically the largest desert on Earth. Despite being covered in ice, it receives very little precipitation. Snow accumulates slowly, locked in place by cold. Beneath the ice, the land remains dry, preserved, and largely unchanged for millions of years. The Arctic, too, contains desert regions where cold limits the availability of liquid water. Mosses, lichens, and hardy plants cling to brief growing seasons, while the land remains frozen for much of the year. Seen together, these deserts form a global system. They regulate climate by reflecting sunlight. They influence atmospheric circulation. They store geological history with remarkable clarity. Despite their differences, deserts across the world share common traits: sparse vegetation, exposed soil or rock, large temperature variations, a sense of openness that stretches the horizon and quiets the mind. Yet each desert is shaped by its own story. Latitude determines how much solar energy reaches the surface. Ocean currents influence humidity. Mountains redirect winds and rainfall. Ancient rivers carve paths that may no longer carry water, leaving behind valleys and basins etched into the land. Time plays a central role here. Many deserts have not always been deserts. Geological records show that some regions now dry were once green, crossed by rivers and lakes. Climate shifts slowly reshaped them, sometimes over tens of thousands of years, sometimes over millions. This means deserts are not static. They expand and contract. They breathe in geological time. They remember past climates even as they exist in the present. Human cultures have long interacted with deserts, often misunderstanding them as empty or hostile. But indigenous peoples across the world developed deep knowledge of desert rhythms. They learned where water hides when plants emerge, how animals move, and how to live within limits rather than against them. In many ways, deserts taught patience. They do not reward haste. They do not tolerate waste. They respond best to observation and restraint. From a sensory perspective, deserts differ subtly from one another. Some are silent except for wind. Others hum with insects at dusk. Some glow red at sunset. Others fade into pale gold or violet as light softens. Even the sky behaves differently over deserts. Clouds are fewer, light is cleaner. Sunrises and sunsets linger, painting the land in long gradients rather than abrupt changes. For the mind, this creates a sense of spaciousness. Without dense vegetation or constant movement, attention relaxes. Thoughts slow. Time feels less compressed. Many people describe desert landscapes as calming, even meditative, despite their harshness. This calm does not come from comfort, but from clarity. As we continue forward, these global deserts will help us understand how life adapts to extremes, how ecosystems organize themselves around scarcity, and how landscapes shaped by dryness still support remarkable complexity. For now, let your awareness rest on this image, a planet where deserts are not exceptions but essential expressions of balance, different in form, unified in function, quietly shaping the earth beneath the open sky. As we drift deeper into the desert, something subtle begins to shift in the way the landscape presents itself. From above, deserts may appear simple. From within, they reveal a quiet complexity. Desert landscapes are shaped by a small number of powerful forces acting over long spans of time. Among them, three stand out with particular clarity: sand, stone, and wind. Each plays a distinct role. Each moves at its own pace. Together, they compose the physical language of deserts. Sand is perhaps the most familiar image associated with deserts, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Sand is not simply ground-down rock scattered randomly across the land. It is the product of prolonged weathering, rock broken apart by temperature changes, water, chemical reactions, and time. In many deserts, sand accumulates where wind energy slows. Over centuries, grains collect and form dunes, structures that appear soft and fluid, yet follow precise physical rules. Dunes migrate slowly, responding to prevailing winds, reshaping themselves grain by grain. Some dunes stretch for kilometers, forming vast sand seas. Others appear as isolated crescents, ridges, or star-shaped forms where winds shift direction throughout the year. Though they seem unstable, dunes move with remarkable consistency, their forms governed by balance rather than chaos. Stone tells a different story. In many deserts, the dominant surface is not sand but rock. Gravel plains, stone pavements, and exposed bedrock define large portions of arid landscapes. These surfaces are often the result of wind removing finer particles over long periods, leaving heavier stones behind. These rocky deserts feel older, more fixed. Their textures are sharp, angular, sometimes polished smooth by centuries of wind-blown particles. Here, erosion works slowly but persistently, carving subtle shapes into cliffs, mesas, and plateaus. Some rock formations stand as natural sculptures, arches, pillars, and towers shaped by differential erosion. Harder layers resist, while softer ones recede, revealing the geological history of the land like pages in a book. Wind is the invisible architect connecting sand and stone. It lifts, carries, and deposits particles across vast distances. It sculpts dunes, smooths rocks, and clears surfaces. Unlike water, wind does not flow in channels. It moves freely, responding to temperature gradients, pressure differences, and the contours of the land. In deserts, wind often becomes the dominant force of change. It reshapes the surface not through sudden events, but through continuous motion. A grain lifted here, dropped there. A ridge sharpened, a hollow deepened. This process creates landscapes that feel both dynamic and still. Nothing appears to happen quickly, yet nothing is truly static. Beyond sand and stone, deserts also contain features shaped by water, though water appears only rarely. Dry riverbeds, known as wadis or arroyos, cut through the land, evidence of infrequent but intense rainfall. These channels may remain empty for years, then suddenly carry torrents that reshape the terrain in hours. After the water passes, silence returns. The land absorbs the change, leaving behind new contours that may persist for centuries. This contrast between long stillness and brief transformation is a defining rhythm of desert landscapes. Temperature also plays a role. Day and night cycles in deserts can be extreme. Rocks expand under heat and contract as temperatures fall. Over time, this repeated stress fractures stone, contributing to the slow breakdown of the surface. Even the color of deserts tells a story. Reds and oranges often reflect iron-rich minerals oxidized by air. Pale yellows and whites may indicate salt, gypsum, or limestone. Dark desert varnish, a thin coating of minerals on rock surfaces, forms over thousands of years, signaling remarkable stability. Light interacts with these surfaces in unique ways. With little vegetation to absorb it, sunlight reflects broadly, illuminating textures and casting long shadows. At dawn and dusk, colors soften, and the land seems to glow from within. This quality of light contributes to the desert's emotional impact. The open space, the minimal forms, the clarity of lines, all encourage the mind to slow. With fewer visual distractions, attention spreads outward rather than fragmenting. Desert landscapes do not overwhelm. They invite observation. They reward patience. Many travelers describe a sense of grounding when moving through deserts. The land does not demand urgency. It offers no quick rewards. Instead, it presents continuity, a reminder that change can occur without haste. Even silence behaves differently here. Wind may whisper across sand. Stones may click softly as temperatures shift. At night, sound carries farther in the open air, yet the overall impression remains one of quiet. This quiet is not emptiness. It is space. Space shaped by time, motion, and restraint. As we continue this journey, the physical forms of deserts will begin to connect with the lives that inhabit them. Plants, animals, and humans who have learned to exist within these constraints. For now, let your awareness rest gently on the image of the desert surface. sand moving slowly, stone holding memory, wind passing without pause. Together, they create a landscape that appears simple, yet carries the depth of ages. As we continue our slow journey across the desert, something remarkable begins to reveal itself. At first glance, deserts may appear empty, quiet, uninhabited. But life is present here, subtle, persistent, and deeply adapted to the rhythms of scarcity. In arid lands, survival is not about abundance, it is about efficiency. Every organism that lives in the desert carries a long history of adaptation shaped by limited water, intense sunlight, shifting temperatures, and long periods of stillness. Life here does not rush. It waits. Desert plants offer some of the clearest examples of this quiet intelligence. Many have evolved to store water in thick stems, leaves, or roots. Cacti, for instance, reduce leaf surface area to minimize evaporation, transforming leaves into spines while shifting photosynthesis to the stem. These spines also provide shade and protection, subtly lowering surface temperature. Other plants, such as succulents, rely on fleshy tissues that act as reservoirs, allowing them to endure months or even years without rainfall. Some species remain dormant beneath the soil, emerging only after rare rain events, completing their entire life cycle in a matter of weeks. This strategy, rapid growth followed by long dormancy, allows life to exist without constant presence. Roots, often unseen, play an essential role. In deserts, roots may stretch far wider than the plant itself, forming shallow networks that quickly absorb surface moisture. Others plunge deep into the ground, tapping hidden groundwater reserves inaccessible to most organisms. Animals, too, have developed precise ways of navigating the desert's constraints. Many desert creatures are nocturnal, avoiding daytime heat by becoming active only after sunset. By shifting their schedules rather than their environments, they reduce water loss and thermal stress. Small mammals, reptiles, and insects often shelter in burrows where temperatures remain relatively stable. These underground spaces protect against heat, cold predators, and dehydration. Physiology also adapts. Some animals produce highly concentrated urine, conserving water with remarkable efficiency. Others obtain nearly all the moisture they need from food, rarely drinking freestanding water at all. Camels, often symbolically linked to deserts, possess specialized adaptations that allow them to tolerate dehydration levels fatal to most mammals. Their bodies regulate temperature internally, reducing the need for sweating and conserving water over long distances. Even birds, seemingly fragile in such harsh conditions, have evolved lightweight bodies, efficient respiratory systems, and migratory behaviors that align with seasonal resources. Yet survival in deserts is not only individual, it is relational. Plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms form networks of dependency. Pollinators time their activity to rare blooms. Predators regulate prey populations, maintaining balance. Decomposers recycle nutrients quickly after brief growth periods. The soil itself becomes a living system. Biological soil crusts, composed of cyanobacteria, lichens, mosses, and fungi, form thin, dark layers across desert surfaces. These crusts stabilize soil, retain moisture, fix nitrogen, and prevent erosion. Though easily overlooked, they are foundational to desert ecosystems. When disturbed, recovery can take decades. This fragility highlights an important truth. Desert life is resilient, but not invulnerable. Adaptation does not imply invincibility. Instead, it reflects careful alignment with environmental limits. Rain, when it arrives, transforms the desert. Seeds long buried awaken. Flowers bloom rapidly, often synchronizing across vast areas. Insects emerge, followed by birds and mammals that respond to this brief surge of life. These moments of abundance are short-lived but deeply significant. They replenish ecosystems, allow reproduction, and reset cycles of dormancy. Then gradually the landscape returns to quiet. This rhythm, long periods of restraint punctuated by brief intensity, defines desert life. It is a rhythm that contrasts sharply with environments shaped by constant growth. Here, success is measured not by expansion, but by endurance. Temperature extremes also shape behavior and form. Desert organisms often tolerate wide temperature ranges. Reptiles regulate body heat through precise movement, seeking sun in the morning, shade by midday, warmth retained in stone after sunset. Plants adjust leaf orientation to reduce solar exposure. Some reflect light through waxy coatings, others use fine hairs to scatter radiation. Even color becomes adaptive. Pale surfaces reflect heat, while darker ones absorb warmth during cool nights. Across all forms, a pattern emerges. Desert life minimizes waste. It avoids excess. It responds rather than resists. There is no urgency here, only timing. From a distance, these adaptations may seem purely biological, yet they also offer insight into broader principles of survival. In deserts, life persists by listening closely to its environment. Nothing is assumed. Nothing is taken for granted. Energy is conserved. Resources are shared across time rather than consumed at once. This creates ecosystems that function quietly, efficiently, and with remarkable stability, despite appearances of barrenness. As we move forward in this journey, the presence of life in arid lands begins to connect naturally with human experience. Humans too have learned to adapt to deserts through settlement patterns, architecture, movement, and cultural rhythms shaped by heat, water, and terrain. The strategies used by plants and animals echo in the ways people have lived alongside deserts for thousands of years. But before we explore that connection, allow your attention to rest for a moment on this idea. Life does not require constant abundance. It requires alignment. In the desert, survival unfolds not through force, but through quiet precision, each organism moving just enough, waiting just long enough, using exactly what is needed. And in that restraint, life continues. As our journey continues, the desert begins to reveal something less visible than dunes, rocks, or distant horizons. Beneath the apparent simplicity of arid landscapes lies a complex web of relationships, an ecosystem shaped not by abundance, but by precision. Desert ecosystems are defined by balance. Every form of life here, plant, animal, microorganism, exists within narrow limits. Water is scarce. Temperatures fluctuate widely. Nutrients move slowly. Because of this, No organism can afford to exist in isolation. Survival depends on interdependence. In deserts, ecosystems are not built vertically, as in forests, nor layered by constant growth. Instead, they spread horizontally across space and time, connecting organisms through subtle exchanges of energy, matter, and timing. Primary producers form the foundation. Plants, algae, and photosynthetic microorganisms capture solar energy and convert it into usable forms. In deserts, this process often occurs at a slower pace, regulated by water availability rather than sunlight alone. Many desert plants synchronize growth with rainfall. When moisture arrives, even briefly, photosynthesis accelerates. When drought returns, activity slows or pauses entirely. This pulsed productivity shapes everything that follows. Herbivores, often insects, small mammals or reptiles, feed during short windows of plant growth. Their populations rise and fall in response to vegetation cycles. Predators, in turn, adjust their movements and breeding patterns based on prey availability. Nothing remains constant. Instead, desert ecosystems operate through dynamic equilibrium, continual adjustment without collapse. Soil organisms play a crucial role in this balance. Bacteria, fungi, and archaea break down organic matter, releasing nutrients back into the soil. In deserts, decomposition occurs slowly due to dryness, but when moisture appears, microbial activity surges. These brief pulses of biological activity recycle nutrients efficiently, ensuring that little is wasted. One of the most important yet overlooked components of desert ecosystems is the biological soil crust. These thin layers, composed of cyanobacteria, lichens, mosses, and fungi, bind soil particles together. They reduce erosion, retain moisture, and fix atmospheric nitrogen, enriching otherwise poor soils. Without these crusts, many deserts would lose fertility rapidly. Their presence illustrates a defining principle of desert ecosystems. Stability emerges from small, persistent interactions. Animal behavior further reinforces balance. Many desert species regulate population size naturally through limited resources. Reproductive rates are often lower than in more productive environments, preventing overconsumption. Migration also plays a role. Some species move seasonally between deserts and adjacent ecosystems, transporting nutrients, seeds, and genetic diversity across regions. Birds, insects, and mammals act as connectors, linking desert ecosystems to grasslands, wetlands, and mountains. Energy flows outward as well as inward. Predation in deserts is efficient rather than abundant. Predators conserve energy, often remaining still for long periods before brief, decisive action. This strategy minimizes unnecessary movement and maintains population stability. Scavengers contribute by recycling remains quickly, preventing nutrient loss and supporting microbial communities. Even death becomes part of balance. Water, when present, acts as the central organizing force. Temporary streams, known as ephemeral rivers or wadis, channel rainfall through the landscape. Along their paths, life concentrates. Vegetation grows denser. Animals gather, soil becomes richer. When the water disappears, traces remain. Seeds buried, nutrients deposited, pathways formed. These channels connect distant parts of the ecosystem, redistributing resources across time. Temperature also structures interactions. During extreme heat, activity shifts underground or into shaded microhabitats. Rocks, burrows, and vegetation create temperature gradients that organisms exploit precisely. At night, cooler air allows movement, feeding, and reproduction. This daily rhythm, rest by day, activity by night, reduces competition and stress, allowing more species to coexist. Desert ecosystems, therefore, are not simple. They are refined. Each organism occupies a narrow ecological niche, shaped by specific combinations of temperature, moisture, shelter, and food availability. When one element changes, others respond. This responsiveness creates resilience. Contrary to popular belief, deserts are not fragile because they are empty. They are sensitive because they are finely tuned. Disturbance, whether through climate shifts, land use, or disruption of soil structure, can destabilize these systems, not immediately, but gradually. Recovery often takes decades, yet when left intact, desert ecosystems demonstrate remarkable persistence. Some have remained functionally stable for thousands of years, adapting slowly to climatic oscillations while maintaining core relationships. This long-term balance reflects a different ecological philosophy. Instead of growth without limits, deserts exemplify sufficiency. Instead of speed, they rely on timing. Instead of dominance, they favor coexistence. From this perspective, deserts are not marginal environments, but instructive ones. They show how life organizes itself under constraint, how cooperation, specialization, and restraint can sustain complex systems even when resources are minimal. As we move forward, this understanding naturally leads toward human presence within deserts. Humans too became part of these ecosystems, not by overpowering them, but by learning to align with their rhythms. Settlement patterns, movement, and culture in desert regions reflect the same principles of balance and interdependence seen in plants and animals. But before we arrive there, allow this image to settle gently. A landscape where nothing is wasted, where every interaction matters, where balance is not static but continuously renewed through attention and restraint. The desert holds itself together not through abundance, but through relationship. And it is within these relationships that the next part of our journey begins. As we continue this journey, imagine yourself gently rising above the desert. There is no rush, no sudden movement. The ground slowly pulls away, and the vastness of the landscape begins to unfold beneath you. From above, deserts reveal a different kind of order. What once seemed empty now appears structured. What felt chaotic on the ground becomes legible from the air. Lines, curves, gradients, and repeating forms emerge, quiet signatures of natural processes working over immense spans of time. Desert landscapes are shaped primarily by flow, not the continuous flow of rivers, but intermittent movement of wind, of water, of sediment, of heat. These forces do not act constantly, but when they do, they leave lasting marks. From above, wind-shaped patterns are among the most striking. Sand dunes form in response to prevailing wind directions, grain size, and vegetation cover. Crescent-shaped Barchan dunes point their horns downwind, indicating consistent airflow. Linear dunes stretch for kilometers, aligned with alternating wind directions. Star dunes rise where winds shift frequently, creating towering, multi-armed structures. Each dune field becomes a record of atmospheric behavior. Their shapes are not random. They are the visible outcome of invisible currents, traced slowly across the surface of the Earth. Between dune systems, darker patches appear. These are desert pavements, surfaces where finer particles have been removed by wind, leaving behind tightly packed stones. From above, they form mosaics of texture and tone, stabilizing the ground and reducing further erosion. In other regions, the land appears etched. Dry riverbeds, wadis, arroyos, washes, cut pale lines through darker terrain. These channels may remain dry for years, yet their paths remain sharply defined. When rain arrives, water follows these ancient routes, moving rapidly across the surface before disappearing again. From above, these channels resemble veins. They connect distant parts of the landscape, transporting sediment, nutrients, and life in brief, powerful pulses. Their branching patterns mirror those of rivers in wetter climates, reminding us that deserts are shaped by water as much as by its absence. Alluvial fans are another prominent feature. Where mountain slopes meet open plains, water slows and spreads, depositing sediments in fan-shaped patterns. From above, these fans radiate outward, layered with centuries of deposition. Each layer corresponds to a different climatic moment. A wetter year, a sudden storm, a gradual shift. These fans quietly expand, millimeter by millimeter, reshaping valleys and plains alike. Color variations tell another story. Iron-rich soils appear reddish or ochre. Gypsum and salt flats shine pale white. Volcanic deserts darken the surface with basalt and ash. Vegetation traces faint green or gray lines where moisture lingers just beneath the surface. From above, the desert becomes a map of chemistry. Every hue reflects mineral composition, weathering history, and biological influence. Even subtle differences indicate changes in elevation, drainage, or soil structure. Cracks in dried lake beds form geometric patterns. These playas, once filled with water, now display polygonal fractures caused by evaporation and contraction. From the air, they resemble intricate mosaics, precise and repeating. Their symmetry arises from physical laws, not design, yet the result feels deliberate. These surfaces record cycles of flooding and drying, expanding and shrinking over time. Elevation changes become more apparent from above. Plateaus rise gently. Escarpments form sharp edges and basins sink inward. Shadows emphasize relief, especially during early morning or late afternoon, when low-angle light stretches across the land. This interplay of light and form creates visual rhythm. Long shadows trace ridgelines. Sunlit slopes glow softly. Depressions gather darkness. The desert appears sculptural, as if carved intentionally rather than shaped by chance. Vegetation patterns also reveal flow. Plants often cluster along microchannels, slopes, or subsurface moisture paths. From above, these clusters form networks rather than isolated patches. Life follows gradients of water, of nutrients, of shelter. Even sparse vegetation becomes legible as a system. Animal movement leaves faint marks as well, Tracks, burrows, and migration paths may not be visible directly, but their influence appears in vegetation gaps, soil disturbance, and erosion patterns. Over time, these movements subtly reshape the surface. From above, the desert is not still. It is active, dynamic, and interconnected. What becomes clear is that deserts are landscapes of accumulation rather than erasure. Material moves slowly. Changes are incremental. Nothing disappears without leaving a trace. Wind redistributes sand. Water rearranges sediment. Heat fractures rock. Life anchors and modifies surfaces. All of these processes overlap. From this vantage point, deserts resemble living diagrams, systems where form reflects process with remarkable clarity. There is little concealment. The land shows its history openly. This openness invites a different kind of attention. Instead of searching for spectacle, the observer learns to notice relationships. How dunes align with wind, how channels follow gravity, how color follows chemistry, how life follows water. Understanding replaces expectation, and with understanding comes calm. As you continue to drift above the desert, the patterns begin to feel familiar, almost comforting. Repetition emerges. Variation exists within limits. Nothing is abrupt. Everything transitions gradually. The desert teaches patience through scale. From above, human presence appears minimal. Small roads, faint structures, occasional fields. These elements seem temporary against the vastness of geological time recorded below. Yet they too follow patterns. Human roots often align with valleys, passes, and ancient watercourses. Settlements cluster where resources concentrate. Even modern infrastructure bends subtly to the logic of the land. This alignment hints at a deeper connection. To live in the desert, humans had to read these patterns, to understand flow, shelter, and limitation. Long before technology, survival depended on recognizing what the landscape offered and what it withheld. From above, that relationship becomes visible. As the aerial view slowly descends, the details soften again. Patterns blur into texture. Texture becomes surface. Surface becomes ground. The perspective shifts back toward the human scale. And with that shift comes a natural transition, away from form alone and toward the lived experience of desert landscapes. Because these patterns are not only seen, they are felt. They shape movement, attention, and perception on the ground. And it is there, within these vast forms, that the next part of our journey continues. Light is one of the most defining forces in desert landscapes. More than rain or vegetation, more even than wind, light shapes how deserts are seen, felt, and understood. It determines color, temperature, contrast, and rhythm. It organizes time. It guides movement. It influences how life adapts and when it becomes active. In deserts, light is never neutral. Because the air is dry and often clear, sunlight travels with little diffusion. Shadows appear sharp. Edges are well defined. Surfaces respond immediately to changes in illumination, warming quickly under the sun and cooling rapidly once it fades. This sensitivity makes the desert a place of constant visual transformation. At dawn, the first light arrives low and gentle. The sun approaches the horizon slowly, and its rays stretch across the land at a shallow angle. Long shadows form behind rocks, dunes, and ridges. Relief becomes exaggerated. Every rise and depression is revealed. Colors at this hour are subdued. Ochres soften into pale gold. Reds turn muted. Grays take on hints of blue. The desert feels quiet, almost tentative, as if waiting for the day to fully begin. This early light is often the most forgiving. It reveals form without overwhelming it. Heat has not yet built up. Air currents are minimal. For both humans and animals, dawn is a time of clarity and calm. As the sun climbs higher, light becomes more direct. Shadows shorten. Contrast increases. Surfaces reflect more intensely. The desert begins to assert its presence. Rocks absorb heat. Sand brightens. The air itself seems to shimmer. At midday, light is at its most intense. The sun stands nearly overhead, and shadows retreat beneath objects. The landscape appears flatter, more uniform. Texture is reduced. Detail becomes harder to read. This flattening effect is not an absence of form, but a consequence of illumination. Without shadow to define relief, the eye struggles to distinguish subtle changes in elevation. Distance becomes deceptive. Objects appear closer or farther than they are. This visual ambiguity contributes to the desert's reputation for disorientation. At the same time, heat accumulates. Desert surfaces absorb solar radiation rapidly. Sand, rock, and soil store energy, raising ground temperatures far above air temperature. This stored heat radiates upward, creating convection currents that distort the air. These distortions produce mirages. Light bends as it passes through layers of air at different temperatures, creating illusions of water or movement. What appears reflective and fluid may be nothing more than refracted sky. These optical effects are not hallucinations, but physical phenomena. They are reminders that light, heat, and air interact continuously in desert environments, altering perception in subtle but persistent ways. As afternoon progresses, light begins to soften again. The sun lowers gradually, and shadows lengthen once more. Relief returns. Colors deepen. The landscape regains complexity. This transition is often slow and soothing. The harshness of midday gives way to balance. The desert seems to exhale. Heat begins to dissipate. Air movement increases slightly, carrying warmth upward and allowing the surface to cool. At sunset, the desert transforms. Low-angle light spreads across the land, igniting warm tones: amber, copper, rose. Shadows stretch dramatically, emphasizing the sculptural quality of dunes and rock formations. Even familiar landscapes appear new. The interplay of light and shadow creates rhythm. Alternating bands of brightness and darkness guide the eye across the terrain. Valleys fill with shade. Ridges glow briefly before dimming. This rhythm is deeply tied to time. In deserts, the day is not marked by clocks but by light. Activity follows illumination. Rest follows darkness. Biological cycles align closely with solar patterns. Plants adjust leaf orientation to reduce exposure. Animals emerge or retreat based on temperature and brightness. Human movement, historically, followed similar rules. Light dictates when life is possible. Nightfall arrives swiftly in many deserts. With little atmospheric moisture to retain heat, temperatures drop quickly once the sun disappears. The sky darkens rapidly. Stars emerge with striking clarity. Artificial light is often absent. This absence allows darkness to settle fully, restoring contrast in a different form. Where daylight reveals form through shadow, night reveals space through points of light. Starlight, moonlight, and reflected glow softly outline the land. Ridges appear as silhouettes. Dunes become gentle curves. The desert feels expansive yet intimate, open yet protective. The visual rhythm continues but at a slower pace. Under moonlight, surfaces reflect softly. Colors recede into grayscale. Texture becomes subtle. The eye relaxes, no longer processing sharp contrasts. This nocturnal light encourages stillness. In such conditions, sound carries farther. Movement slows. Attention turns inward. The desert becomes a place not of survival, but of contemplation. Throughout all these phases, light remains the organizing principle. It shapes how the desert is experienced physically and mentally. It defines comfort and danger, clarity and confusion, effort and rest. Importantly, desert light teaches restraint. There is no constant brilliance. Intensity comes in waves. Balance is found in transition rather than extremes. This lesson is mirrored in the landscape itself. Nothing in the desert remains at peak intensity for long. Heat gives way to cool. Brightness fades into shadow. Exposure alternates with shelter. These cycles are predictable, reliable, and calming. To observe desert light attentively is to learn patience. It invites the observer to slow down, to notice change without urgency, to accept fluctuation as natural rather than disruptive. As you imagine standing quietly within this rhythm, feeling warmth rise and fall, watching shadows move across the ground, you may notice your own attention begin to adjust. Breath aligns with light. Thoughts soften with shadow. Awareness widens, then rests. And as this chapter of light gently settles, it naturally opens the way to another dimension of desert experience, one shaped not by sight alone, but by absence, resonance, and stillness. Because when light fades, sound becomes more present. And it is within that subtle shift that our journey continues. At first glance, deserts are often described as silent places. This description is common, but incomplete. Deserts are not silent in the absence of sound. Instead, they are quiet in a very specific way. Their acoustic character is shaped by space, dryness, openness, and the scarcity of constant background noise. In deserts, sound behaves differently. The lack of dense vegetation, flowing water, and human infrastructure means fewer continuous sound sources. There is no constant rustling of leaves, no persistent hum of insects, no steady movement of water over stone. What remains is space, wide open and acoustically honest. Because of this, individual sounds become more noticeable. A single footstep can carry farther. A distant call may echo softly against rock faces. Wind moving across sand can be heard not as noise, but as texture. Silence in deserts is not empty. It is a condition that allows subtle sounds to emerge and fade naturally, without competition. This acoustic openness has physical causes. Dry air transmits sound less efficiently than humid air, especially at higher frequencies. This means that sharp sounds dissipate more quickly, while lower, softer tones may travel farther under the right conditions. At the same time, temperature gradients influence sound movement. During the day, warm air near the surface rises, bending sound waves upward. This can make distant noises seem muted or absent. At night, when the ground cools and air near the surface becomes denser, sound waves bend downward, allowing sounds to travel farther across the landscape. This creates a daily rhythm in how sound is experienced. Daytime deserts often feel acoustically sparse. Sounds appear brief, isolated, and quickly absorbed by space. Nighttime deserts, by contrast, can feel unexpectedly alive with distant calls, subtle movements, and echoes that seem to come from nowhere in particular. This shift is gradual and predictable. As light fades and temperatures drop, the acoustic field changes. The desert does not become louder, it becomes clearer. Small sounds gain presence. The movement of nocturnal animals, the soft displacement of sand, the occasional call of a bird or insect, these sounds are not constant, but they are distinct. Each one arrives, exists briefly, and then returns to silence. This pattern creates a sense of spaciousness in time. There is no continuous stream of sound demanding attention. Instead, the listener is invited to notice without anticipation, to listen without searching. This listening state is deeply calming. Human nervous systems evolved in environments where silence was common and meaningful. Constant noise is a relatively recent condition. In quiet landscapes like deserts, the brain does not need to filter competing stimuli. Attention relaxes, breathing slows, awareness expands rather than narrows. The desert's acoustic landscape supports this response naturally. Wind is one of the most consistent sound sources in deserts, but even it behaves differently here. Without trees or dense vegetation to break airflow, wind often moves smoothly across open ground. Rather than creating chaotic noise, it produces long, steady tones. Over sand, it may whisper. Around rock formations, it may hum or resonate briefly. In certain conditions, dunes themselves produce sound. Some large sand dunes are known to emit low-frequency vibrations when sand slides down their slopes. These sounds, sometimes described as booming or singing, result from synchronized movement of sand grains. Though rare and dependent on specific conditions, they demonstrate that even the desert's silence contains the potential for sound. Importantly, these sounds are not disruptive. They arise slowly, fade naturally, and do not overwhelm the listener. They belong to the landscape rather than interrupt it. Echoes also behave uniquely in deserts. Rock walls, canyon sides, and cliffs can reflect sound, but because of the scale of these formations, echoes are often delayed and softened. Rather than sharp repetition, they appear as gentle returns, sound responding to itself across space. This reinforces a sense of depth. The listener becomes aware not just of sound, but of distance. Time stretches slightly as echoes arrive later than expected. This temporal expansion contributes to the desert's calming effect. Sound slows perception. Silence deepens it. For early human populations, these acoustic qualities were significant. In open desert environments, listening was essential for survival. Sound provided information about movement, weather, and the presence of other beings. At the same time, long periods of quiet likely shaped cognitive patterns. Without constant auditory input, attention would naturally turn inward. Thought would become less reactive, more reflective. This may explain why deserts have long been associated with contemplation, retreat, and introspection across cultures. The environment itself encourages stillness. Modern listeners often experience discomfort in silence at first. Accustomed to continuous background noise, the absence of sound can feel unfamiliar. But given time, this discomfort gives way to ease. The desert teaches listening without effort. There is nothing to focus on, nothing to follow. Sound arrives on its own terms. This is an important distinction. In many environments, attention is pulled outward by noise. In deserts, attention is allowed to rest. This resting attention does not mean disengagement. It means presence without tension. As you imagine yourself within this acoustic space, standing still, hearing only what arises naturally, you may notice a subtle shift. Your breathing becomes more audible. Your own internal rhythms come into focus. The boundary between external silence and internal quiet begins to soften. This is not emptiness, it is clarity. The desert's soundscape reveals that silence is not the absence of experience, but the removal of excess. What remains is enough. This understanding carries forward, because once sound recedes, other senses gently take its place. Temperature becomes more noticeable. Air movement becomes perceptible. The ground beneath feels more present. And in this quiet, the mind often follows the same path, settling, slowing, opening. This transition prepares us for the next layer of desert life, for within this silence, life continues quietly, often unseen, adapting its rhythms to heat, darkness, and scarcity. And it is toward that subtle, resilient presence that our journey now moves. At first, deserts may appear almost empty. Wide horizons, exposed ground, and long stretches of stillness can give the impression that little life exists here. But this impression changes slowly as the eyes adjust and attention softens. Deserts are not places without life. They are places where life has learned to move carefully, to grow slowly, and to exist with remarkable efficiency. Every organism in the desert is shaped by the same constraints: limited water, intense sunlight, temperature extremes, and long periods of apparent inactivity. Survival here depends not on speed or abundance, but on restraint. Life in deserts is defined by adaptation to stillness. Plants are often the most visible form of this adaptation. Desert plants rarely grow quickly or expansively. Instead, they invest energy in structures that minimize loss and maximize retention. Leaves may be small, thick, or entirely absent. In many species, leaves have evolved into spines, reducing surface area and limiting evaporation. Photosynthesis continues, but quietly. Some desert plants open their stomata only at night, a process known as CAM photosynthesis. By absorbing carbon dioxide in cooler, more humid conditions, they reduce water loss while maintaining metabolic function. This timing reflects a broader desert strategy, shifting activity away from the harshest hours. Stems and tissues often store water internally, allowing plants to survive long periods without rain. These reservoirs are not excess. They are carefully regulated stores, used slowly and deliberately. Roots, meanwhile, spread wide rather than deep in many species. Instead of searching for groundwater far below, they capture brief surface moisture from short, infrequent rains. This design acknowledges reality. Rain in deserts is unpredictable, often brief, and unevenly distributed. Plants that can respond quickly to these moments have an advantage. Some desert plants remain dormant for years. Seeds may lie inactive beneath the soil, waiting for precise conditions, enough moisture, the right temperature, the correct timing. When these conditions align, growth begins rapidly, often producing flowers and seeds within weeks. Then, just as quickly, the plant completes its life cycle and returns to dormancy. This is not fragility, it is precision. Animals in the desert follow similar principles. Many are nocturnal, emerging only when temperatures fall and evaporation slows. Daytime heat is avoided not through endurance, but through absence. Burrowing animals use the insulating properties of soil to escape surface extremes. Just a short distance underground, temperatures become more stable. Humidity increases slightly, and energy demands decrease. Movement is deliberate. Reptiles bask briefly to raise body temperature, then retreat to shade. Mammals reduce activity to essential moments. Birds adjust flight and feeding schedules to avoid peak heat. Even insects display remarkable efficiency. Some species collect moisture from fog or dew. Others synchronize emergence with rare rainfall events. Many remain inactive for long periods, conserving energy until conditions improve. This pattern repeats across desert ecosystems. Life does not rush, it waits. Physiologically, desert animals often have specialized kidneys capable of conserving water to an extraordinary degree. Urine is highly concentrated. Moisture is reclaimed from respiration. Metabolic water, produced internally during digestion, becomes a significant resource. Food, too, is used efficiently. Nothing is wasted. Scarcity shapes every process. Importantly, desert life is not uniformly sparse. In certain microhabitats, near temporary streams, shaded rock faces, or underground moisture pockets, life concentrates. These areas act as quiet nodes of activity within the larger stillness. Such concentration creates ecological networks. Predators time their movements to prey availability. Plants synchronize flowering with pollinator presence. Fungi and microorganisms persist in soil, contributing to nutrient cycling even when surface conditions appear lifeless. This unseen activity sustains the system. Deserts function not through constant productivity, but through balance. Energy input from sunlight is abundant, but water limits how much of that energy can be used. As a result, growth is slow, controlled, and measured. This has long-term consequences. Desert organisms often live longer than their counterparts in more temperate environments. Growth rings in desert trees may be narrow but numerous. Some plants grow only millimeters per year. Time stretches. This extended timescale influences behavior and physiology alike. Stress responses are muted. Recovery is gradual. There is no expectation of immediate abundance. Instead, persistence becomes the goal. From a sensory perspective, this restraint shapes how deserts feel. Movement is rare enough to be noticeable. A single animal crossing open ground becomes an event. A brief bloom transforms an entire landscape. Attention is naturally drawn to detail. This has psychological effects. Observers often report heightened awareness, reduced mental noise, and a sense of clarity in desert environments. Without constant biological activity competing for attention, perception slows. The mind mirrors the environment. Desert life teaches by example. Survival does not require constant effort. It requires alignment with conditions. Energy is conserved, not wasted. Activity is purposeful, not habitual. These lessons are not symbolic additions to desert life. They are embedded in its structure. From microbial communities beneath the soil to large mammals moving across open plains, the same principles apply. Wait when waiting is needed. Act when conditions allow. Rest when resources are scarce. This adaptive stillness is not passive, it is responsive. As you imagine these organisms, plants storing water quietly, animals moving only when necessary, you may notice a parallel. Your own body responds similarly when demands decrease. Breathing slows. Muscles release tension. Attention settles. The desert does not demand attention. It allows it to rest. And within that rest, life continues, carefully tuned to its environment. This understanding opens the door to another aspect of desert existence, because adaptation here is not only biological, it is temporal. Deserts carry deep time within their surfaces, shaped slowly by erosion, wind, and rare water. And it is toward this slow transformation, written across the land itself, that we now turn. In many landscapes, water announces itself clearly. It flows in visible rivers, gathers in lakes, or falls regularly from the sky. Its presence shapes the land in obvious ways, carving channels, nourishing vegetation, and sustaining dense networks of life. Deserts are different. Here, water rarely reveals itself openly. It does not linger. It does not settle for long. And yet it is present, quietly shaping the landscape, guiding life, and moving through the environment in subtle and often invisible ways. In deserts, water exists without rivers, or rather, it exists in forms that do not behave like rivers most of the time. Rainfall in desert regions is infrequent, unpredictable, and uneven. Months or even years may pass without measurable precipitation. When rain does arrive, it often comes suddenly and intensely, falling faster than the ground can absorb. This creates a unique hydrological rhythm. Instead of steady flow, deserts experience pulses. Water appears briefly, moves rapidly, and disappears again, not lost, but redistributed. Dry channels known as wadis, arroyos, or washes remain empty for long periods. Their beds may seem lifeless, shaped only by wind and time, but when rain falls far upstream, these channels can fill within minutes, carrying water, sediment, and nutrients across vast distances. These flows are short-lived but powerful. They reshape the land quickly, then retreat just as fast, leaving behind subtle changes that may persist for decades. Much of the water never reaches the surface for long. Instead, it infiltrates the soil, seeping into porous layers beneath the desert floor. These underground reserves, known as aquifers, become some of the most important water sources in arid regions. Aquifers recharge slowly. Each rare rainfall contributes a small amount, filtering downward through layers of sand, gravel, and rock. Over time, sometimes over thousands of years, these hidden reservoirs accumulate water. This deep storage explains why life can persist in places that appear completely dry. Plants with long roots tap into moisture far below the surface. Animals sense dampness in specific locations. Microorganisms remain active in soil layers, where humidity stays just high enough to support metabolic processes. Even rocks play a role. Certain minerals absorb and retain small amounts of moisture from the air, releasing it slowly as temperatures change. In some deserts, dew and fog provide more water annually than rainfall. These sources are modest but reliable. Desert organisms are finely tuned to detect and use them. Water movement in deserts is therefore less about flow and more about transfer. It moves vertically rather than horizontally. It travels through soil instead of across it. It shifts between phases, liquid, vapor, condensation, more often than it remains in any one state. Temperature plays a crucial role in this movement. During the day, intense heat drives evaporation. Moisture near the surface rises into the air, often disappearing before it can be used. At night, temperatures drop sharply. Air cools, condensation forms, and moisture returns to the ground. This daily cycle creates a quiet exchange between earth and atmosphere. Plants that open stomata at night benefit from this exchange. So do animals that forage after sunset, when water loss through respiration decreases. Desert soils reflect this rhythm. Unlike soils in wetter environments, desert soils often form crusts, hardened surfaces created by minerals, microorganisms, and compacted particles. These crusts reduce evaporation, stabilize the ground, and help retain moisture beneath the surface. Though they may appear barren, these crusts are biologically active. Cyanobacteria, lichens, and fungi contribute to nutrient cycling and water retention, forming a living skin that supports the broader ecosystem. Water scarcity also shapes landscape features. Salt flats, dry lake beds, and playas mark locations where water once gathered, evaporated, and left minerals behind. These areas record the history of moisture movement across the desert, preserving evidence of ancient climates. Some deserts were once far wetter than they are today. Remnants of former rivers, lakes, and wetlands remain etched into the terrain. Fossil shorelines, sediment layers, and eroded channels tell a story of gradual drying, not sudden loss, but slow transformation. Water, in this sense, becomes a memory held by the land. For human societies, understanding desert water movement has always been essential. Early settlements often formed near springs, oases, or seasonal flood zones. Knowledge of underground water paths determined where people could live, grow food, and travel safely. Ingenious systems emerged to manage scarcity. Qanats, cisterns, and underground channels allowed water to be collected, stored, and distributed with minimal loss. These systems worked with gravity and evaporation cycles rather than against them. Even today, many desert communities rely on ancient principles refined over centuries. Water is treated not as a constant supply, but as a temporary visitor, something to be welcomed, guided, and carefully preserved. This mindset contrasts sharply with landscapes where water abundance encourages continuous use. In deserts, restraint is built into survival. Every drop matters, not because it is rare in isolation, but because it arrives unpredictably. This unpredictability shapes behavior. Plants delay growth until moisture is sufficient. Animals time reproduction to coincide with rainfall. Entire ecosystems remain in a state of readiness rather than constant activity. This readiness is quiet. It does not announce itself through movement or sound. It exists as potential, stored energy, stored moisture, stored time. From above, deserts may look static, but beneath the surface, water is moving slowly, shaping roots, nourishing microbes, and guiding the distribution of life. This hidden movement contributes to the desert's distinctive atmosphere. There is a sense of patience embedded in the land. Nothing rushes because nothing can be assumed. This patience influences perception. For visitors, deserts often evoke a heightened awareness of subtle change. The faint darkening of soil after a rare rain, the appearance of green along a dry channel, the brief shimmer of water that vanishes by morning. Attention sharpens, not because there is more to see, but because there is less. In this environment, water becomes a teacher. It demonstrates how influence does not require permanence, how movement can be brief yet meaningful, how absence can still shape form. These lessons resonate beyond geography. As you imagine water moving quietly through sand and stone, storing itself out of sight, waiting for the right moment, you may notice a parallel within your own body. Breath moves in and out, tension rises and falls, energy gathers, then releases. Nothing needs to be constant. Rest becomes possible when flow is trusted. Deserts remind us that life does not require visible abundance to continue. It requires alignment with cycles, attention to timing, and respect for limits. Water without rivers still sustains worlds, and these worlds, shaped by scarcity and patience, prepare us to understand another defining feature of deserts: the way they record time itself. Wind, stone, and rare water work together over immense spans, carving landscapes slowly and deliberately. It is to this deep, quiet transformation that we now turn. In deserts, time does not rush. It settles. It accumulates slowly, layer by layer, grain by grain, until the landscape itself becomes a record of processes far older than any living memory. Where forests hide time beneath growth and renewal, deserts leave it exposed. Here, time is written openly in sand and stone. At first glance, desert surfaces may appear simple: flat plains, rolling dunes, exposed rock. But this simplicity is deceptive. Every contour, every slope, every scattered stone is the result of countless interactions unfolding over immense spans of time. Wind, water, temperature, and gravity are the primary authors of this landscape. Wind is often the most visible force. In deserts, where vegetation is sparse and soil is exposed, wind moves freely across the surface. It lifts fine particles into the air, carries them across long distances, and deposits them where conditions change. Over time, this process sorts materials by size and weight. The finest grains travel the farthest. Heavier particles move more slowly, hopping and rolling along the ground. Rock surfaces are gradually polished, edges softened, and shapes refined. This is abrasion, a slow, persistent sculpting that requires no sudden force. Sand dunes are one of the clearest expressions of wind-shaped time. Though they appear dynamic, even restless, dunes often migrate only a few meters per year. Their forms respond continuously to prevailing winds, but always within constraints. Crests shift, slopes adjust, and patterns repeat. Each dune is temporary, yet the process itself is ancient. Beneath moving sands, older layers remain undisturbed. Some desert sands have been reworked many times, while others preserve their position for thousands of years. In this way, motion exists alongside stability. Water, though rare, leaves deeper marks. When rain falls in deserts, it often arrives suddenly and intensely. Flash floods surge through dry channels, carrying sediment with great force. These events are brief, but their effects are lasting. Channels deepen, banks collapse, stones are rearranged, then the water disappears again. Between floods, these channels remain dry, exposed to sun and wind. Their shapes record the memory of movement, a reminder that change does not require constant presence. Over long periods, repeated floods carve canyons and valleys. Each event contributes a small adjustment, but together they create vast landforms. The scale of the result reflects the patience of the process. Temperature also plays a quiet but powerful role. Deserts experience extreme daily temperature fluctuations. Rock surfaces heat rapidly under intense sunlight, then cool quickly after sunset. This expansion and contraction creates stress within the material. Over time, rocks fracture. This process, known as thermal weathering, breaks stone without water or biological activity. Cracks widen slowly. Fragments detach. Surfaces peel away in thin layers. Gravity completes the work. Broken material accumulates at the base of slopes, forming talus fields and debris fans. These deposits may remain in place for centuries, shifting only when another force intervenes. In this way, landscapes evolve without drama. Nothing collapses suddenly. Nothing grows quickly. Change is incremental, cumulative, and continuous. Geological layers exposed in deserts provide some of the clearest records of Earth's history. Sedimentary rock formations reveal ancient environments, shallow seas, river deltas, floodplains, and dunes from climates long past. Colors reflect mineral composition and oxidation states, shaped by atmospheric conditions at the time of formation. Horizontal layers suggest long periods of stability. Tilted or folded layers indicate tectonic movement. Eroded surfaces mark intervals of exposure before new material was deposited. Each layer is a page. Together, they form a book written over millions of years. Unlike regions with dense vegetation or active erosion, deserts preserve these records with remarkable clarity. With little soil development and limited biological disturbance, rock faces remain visible for extended periods. This visibility invites observation. Human cultures have long recognized deserts as places where time feels different. The absence of rapid growth or decay alters perception. Without constant change, attention shifts to what endures. Ruins persist longer here. Footprints may remain visible for days or weeks. Paths worn by animals or humans become etched into the ground. Traces linger. This persistence shapes how deserts are experienced. Moments feel extended. Silence feels deeper. Movement becomes more noticeable because it is rare. The mind responds to this environment by slowing down. Without constant sensory input, perception broadens. Details that might be overlooked elsewhere become prominent. The texture of stone, the alignment of layers, the subtle gradation of color across a slope. Time is no longer measured by clocks, but by light, shadow, and temperature. Morning cool gives way to midday heat. Evening brings rapid cooling. Night settles fully. These cycles repeat with little variation, reinforcing a sense of continuity. Deserts remind us that not all change needs to be visible to be real. Most transformation happens quietly, beneath awareness, accumulating until form itself is altered. This understanding has influenced philosophy, art, and spiritual traditions across cultures. Deserts are often associated with reflection, clarity, and endurance, not because they are empty, but because they reveal what remains when excess is removed. Time here is not abstract. It is tangible. You can see it in the curvature of stone, in the layering of cliffs, in the smoothness of sand, polished by centuries of wind. You can feel it in the pace of movement the land seems to suggest. Nothing urges haste. Everything invites patience. As you imagine these processes and grains shifting, rocks cracking, layers settling, you may notice a similar sensation within yourself. Thoughts slow, attention widens. The urgency of the moment softens. This is not boredom. It is spaciousness. Deserts do not distract. They allow the mind to rest in scale rather than speed. Time continues, whether observed or not. And as we continue this journey, we move from time recorded in stone to time experienced through living systems. How organisms, human and non-human, adapt to this slow, demanding environment. Because even in landscapes shaped by geological patience, life finds ways to exist, organize, and persist. It is toward these living responses to deep time that we now turn. Deserts are landscapes of contrast. Heat and cold, abundance and absence, exposure and shelter exist side by side. These extremes are not occasional challenges. They are the defining conditions of desert life. To live here is to exist between limits, responding not to comfort, but to constraint. And yet, life persists, not by resisting the desert, but by aligning with it. Survival in deserts depends on adaptation that is both precise and restrained. Organisms do not attempt to overcome extremes. Instead, they shape their bodies, behaviors, and rhythms around them. This approach begins at the cellular level. Many desert plants and animals possess biochemical adaptations that allow them to tolerate dehydration, temperature fluctuations, and nutrient scarcity. Proteins stabilize cell membranes. Enzymes function across wider thermal ranges. Metabolism slows when resources are limited. Energy is conserved as a default state. Plants exemplify this principle clearly. Rather than maintaining constant growth, Desert plants operate in cycles of activity and dormancy. Growth occurs only when conditions allow, after rainfall during cooler seasons or at night. The rest of the time, metabolism remains low. Leaves, if present, are often thick, waxy, or covered with fine hairs. These structures reduce water loss by limiting evaporation and reflecting sunlight. Some plants orient their leaves vertically to minimize direct exposure during midday heat. Others eliminate leaves altogether. Cacti and succulents rely on photosynthetic stems, reducing surface area while storing water internally. Their tissues expand during wet periods and contract slowly as reserves are used. This elasticity is not incidental. It allows plants to survive extended drought without structural damage. Roots reflect a similar balance. Some species develop shallow, widespread root systems to capture brief surface moisture. Others grow deep taproots that access groundwater far below. In both cases, the goal is efficiency, not excess. Animals adapt primarily through behavior. Activity is carefully timed. Many desert animals are nocturnal or crepuscular, emerging at dusk or dawn when temperatures are moderate. Daytime heat is avoided not through endurance, but through withdrawal. Burrows provide insulation. Just a few centimeters below the surface, temperature and humidity become more stable. Small mammals, reptiles, and insects use these underground spaces to regulate body temperature and reduce water loss. Larger animals seek shade, reduce movement, and adjust posture to minimize heat absorption. Physiology supports these behaviors. Desert mammals often have highly efficient kidneys that conserve water by producing concentrated urine. Moisture is reclaimed from exhaled air through nasal structures. Sweat is minimized or absent. Birds regulate heat through controlled panting and feather positioning. Reptiles rely on external heat sources, basking briefly and retreating quickly. Even insects demonstrate remarkable adaptation. Some species synchronize emergence with rare rainfall events. Others remain dormant as eggs or larvae for long periods, resuming development only when conditions improve. This capacity to pause life processes is essential. Dormancy is not inactivity, it is preparation. Across desert ecosystems, reproduction follows the same pattern. Timing matters more than frequency. When conditions align, breeding occurs quickly and efficiently. Offspring develop rapidly, taking advantage of short windows of abundance. Then, activity subsides again. This rhythm shapes population dynamics. Instead of steady numbers, desert species experience fluctuations tied closely to environmental cycles. These fluctuations are expected, not catastrophic. Stability comes not from constancy, but from flexibility. Predator-prey relationships adapt accordingly. Predators adjust diets and hunting patterns based on availability. Scavenging becomes common. Energy expenditure is carefully balanced against potential gain. Nothing moves without reason. This economy of movement influences the sensory experience of deserts. Silence dominates not because life is absent, but because activity is minimal. Sounds occur in brief intervals: footsteps, wing beats, wind, then fade. Vision sharpens in response. Movement draws attention immediately. Stillness becomes the norm. This sensory environment affects perception. Humans entering deserts often report a heightened awareness of bodily needs and environmental cues. Thirst becomes noticeable sooner. Shade becomes meaningful. Time feels elongated. The desert encourages presence. Cognitive research suggests that environments with low stimulus density reduce mental fatigue and promote sustained attention. Deserts exemplify this effect. Without constant input, the mind settles into observation rather than reaction. This mirrors the adaptive strategies of desert organisms. Attention is directed where it matters. Energy is conserved. Awareness expands rather than fragments. Cultural responses to deserts reflect this dynamic. Across history, deserts have been associated with reflection, endurance, and clarity, not because they are empty, but because they remove distraction. Survival here requires knowing when to act and when to wait. This knowledge extends beyond biology. Traditional desert cultures developed practices that mirrored environmental rhythms: seasonal movement, resource sharing, architectural designs that moderated temperature and light. Shelter was built to work with wind and sun, not against them. Clothing reflected heat rather than absorbing it. Social structures adapted to scarcity. These adaptations represent accumulated understanding. They show that survival in extremes does not depend on domination, but on alignment. Deserts demonstrate that limits can be informative rather than restrictive. Within constraints, creativity emerges. Solutions become elegant. Waste becomes costly and is therefore avoided. This efficiency shapes not only survival, but character. As you imagine life navigating heat, cold, scarcity, and abundance, moving carefully between extremes, you may recognize familiar patterns. The human nervous system also functions best when it balances stimulation and rest. Too much input creates stress. Too little leads to disengagement. Deserts occupy a middle ground. They are not chaotic, but not empty. They offer enough information to hold attention, but not enough to overwhelm it. This balance invites calm. It allows the mind to slow witut becoming dull. It encourages awareness without urgency. Life between extremes teaches a quiet lesson. Resilience does not require constant effort. It requires responsiveness. As we continue, we move from adaptation at the level of individual organisms to adaptation at the scale of entire landscapes. How deserts organize themselves as systems shaped by wind, stone, and living networks. From survival, we shift toward structure, and from structure toward the broader patterns that allow deserts to function as coherent, enduring environments. In deserts, the land is never entirely still. Even when nothing appears to move, forces are at work. They act slowly, persistently, and with remarkable consistency. Among these forces, wind is one of the most influential. Wind is the quiet architect of desert landscapes. Unlike water, which appears only occasionally, wind is present almost every day. It flows across open ground without obstruction, guided by temperature differences, pressure systems, and the shape of the land itself. Over time, this constant movement becomes structure. Sand dunes are perhaps the most recognizable result of wind's work. They rise gradually where sand accumulates, shaped by prevailing wind directions. Though dunes may appear soft and temporary, Their formation follows precise physical rules. Each dune has a windward side, gently sloped, where sand is pushed upward grain by grain. On the leeward side, sand falls more steeply, forming a slip face at a characteristic angle. This balance creates stable shapes that migrate slowly across the landscape. Movement here is measured. A dune may take years to shift a short distance. Its form changes subtly, responding to seasonal wind patterns, storms, and variations in sand supply. This slow migration is not chaos. It is order unfolding at a patient pace. Beyond dunes, wind sculpts rock itself. In areas where sand particles are carried close to the ground, rocks are gradually eroded through abrasion. Over long periods, this process creates smooth surfaces, sharp ridges, and sculpted forms known as ventifacts. These stones bear the marks of directional force. Their faces align with dominant wind patterns, recording invisible currents through visible shape. Wind also removes material. Deflation occurs when fine particles are lifted and carried away, lowering the surface over time. This process creates depressions, exposed bedrock, and flat plains where heavier materials remain behind. Such areas may appear barren, but they are the result of selective movement rather than absence. What remains has endured. Landforms created by wind interact closely with gravity and geology. Rock layers influence how easily material can be removed. Softer layers erode faster, while harder strata resist change. Over time, this differential erosion produces mesas, buttes, and escarpments, isolated elevations rising from flatter surroundings. These formations give deserts their distinctive vertical rhythm. Flat expanses are interrupted by sudden rises. Long horizons are punctuated by solitary forms. The eye moves slowly, guided by contrast rather than clutter. This visual simplicity is not accidental. It emerges from the way forces distribute energy evenly across large spaces. Wind redistributes sand until resistance balances movement. Gravity pulls material downslope until stability is restored. The result is a landscape that feels settled, even while it continues to change. Airflow itself responds to terrain. As wind encounters ridges, valleys, and open plains, it accelerates, slows, and shifts direction. These variations influence where sand accumulates and where rock is exposed. In this way, the land and the wind shape one another continuously. Temperature differences amplify this interaction. During the day, heated air rises from sun-warmed surfaces, drawing cooler air in. At night, rapid cooling reverses this flow. These daily cycles drive local winds that interact with broader atmospheric patterns. The desert becomes a dynamic system of circulating air. This circulation influences not only landforms, but life. Plants grow in patterns shaped by wind exposure. Sheltered areas allow taller growth, while exposed zones favor low, compact forms. Seeds disperse along predictable paths. Pollinators adapt to airflow. Animals use wind direction to detect predators or locate resources. Burrows are positioned to minimize drafts. Movement aligns with prevailing currents. The wind connects everything. Yet despite this constant motion, deserts rarely feel turbulent. This is because wind here is rarely interrupted. Without forests, buildings, or dense vegetation, airflow remains smooth and continuous. There are fewer sudden shifts, fewer obstacles, fewer chaotic eddies. Movement becomes predictable. Predictability reduces stress for ecosystems and for perception. Humans often describe desert winds as calming rather than agitating. The sound is consistent, the sensation steady. It lacks the irregularity that signals danger or change. This steadiness contributes to the desert's psychological effect. The mind mirrors the environment. When external patterns are simple and repetitive, internal processes slow, thoughts stretch out, attention settles. Landscapes shaped by wind encourage long views. Without barriers, the eye travels far, tracing lines across the terrain. This visual extension creates a sense of openness that contrasts with enclosed environments. Openness does not mean exposure. In deserts, openness coexists with shelter, behind rocks, within dunes, beneath ledges. These microhabitats offer refuge without isolation. This balance between openness and protection is a defining feature of desert form. Nothing dominates the landscape completely. Wind shapes, but does not erase. Rock resists, but does not remain unchanged. Sand moves, but does not scatter indefinitely. Each element participates in a larger pattern. This pattern unfolds over timescales that exceed individual lifespans. Human presence is brief by comparison, yet people often sense this difference immediately. Standing in a desert shaped by wind, there is a feeling of being within a process rather than outside it. You are not observing change, you are resting within it. This sensation can be grounding. Without constant markers of progress or decline, the mind releases urgency. There is no pressure to follow events closely. Nothing demands immediate response. The land continues its work whether watched or not. As you imagine these winds moving across stone and sand, shaping forms slowly, consistently, you may feel a similar rhythm in your own breathing. Inhale, exhale, movement without effort. Deserts teach that form does not require force. It requires time and consistency. And as we continue this journey, the role of wind leads naturally into another aspect of desert experience, how these open, sculpted landscapes shape sound, silence, and perception. Because deserts are not only seen, they are heard, felt, and experienced through absence as much as presence. It is toward this sensory dimension, the quiet acoustics of vast spaces, that we now move. In many environments, sound fills space continuously. Winds move through leaves, water flows over stone, insects hum, birds call, and distant human activity blends into a constant background. Sound layers upon sound, creating a dense acoustic environment that rarely pauses. Deserts are different. Here, sound does not accumulate. It appears, travels, and fades quickly. Silence is not an absence. It is a defining condition. The acoustic character of deserts is shaped by openness. Without dense vegetation, tall structures, or irregular surfaces to reflect and trap sound, waves move freely across the landscape. They dissipate rather than linger. Echoes are brief. Reverberation is minimal. Sound behaves honestly. What is heard is usually close, immediate, and clear. When it ends, it truly ends. wind becomes the dominant sound. Unlike turbulent wind in forests or urban areas, desert wind often moves in long, steady flows. With few obstacles, airflow remains smooth, producing a consistent, low-frequency sound that changes gradually rather than abruptly. This steadiness is important. Acoustic research shows that continuous, predictable sounds are less taxing on the nervous system than irregular or sharp noises. The desert wind, in this sense, functions as a natural regulator of attention. It does not demand focus. It allows the mind to settle. Footsteps behave differently here as well. On sand or gravel, each step produces a clear, isolated sound. There is no background noise to mask it. Movement becomes audible and therefore deliberate. Many desert animals adapt their movement patterns accordingly, stepping lightly or timing activity to quieter periods. Predators rely on this acoustic clarity. Prey relies on it too. The absence of ambient noise sharpens hearing. Subtle sounds, a shift of sand, a distant wing beat, become meaningful signals. Attention is directed outward, but calmly. At night, this acoustic clarity deepens. As temperatures drop, air density changes, allowing sound to travel farther. A call made at night may be heard at a greater distance than during the day. At the same time, overall activity decreases. The result is an expanded sense of space. A single sound can feel immense, not because it is loud, but because it exists alone. Between sounds, silence dominates. This silence is not empty. It is structured by the land itself. Open plains absorb sound. Rock faces reflect it briefly. Valleys and depressions channel it. The terrain shapes how sound moves even when very little is present. This creates zones of relative quiet and zones where sound carries farther. Animals learn these patterns instinctively. Humans perceive them intuitively. In deserts, silence is rarely absolute. There is almost always a faint presence, wind moving over stone, sand shifting subtly, temperature-driven air currents rising and falling. These sounds exist at the threshold of perception. They are felt more than heard. This low-level acoustic environment has measurable effects on the human nervous system. Studies in psychoacoustics suggest that environments with sparse, low-intensity soundscapes reduce cognitive load and support parasympathetic nervous system activity. In simpler terms, they encourage rest. The desert does not bombard the senses. It leaves space. This space allows internal rhythms, breathing, heartbeat, thought, to become more noticeable. Without external competition, awareness turns inward naturally. This is why many people describe desert silence as comforting rather than unsettling. It is not the silence of isolation, it is the silence of permission. Permission to pause, permission to listen without effort. Culturally, deserts have long been associated with silence as a form of insight, not because silence provides answers, but because it removes interference. In silence, patterns become visible. In silence, attention stabilizes. In silence, the mind no longer needs to filter. From a biological perspective, desert organisms rely on this acoustic simplicity. Many animals communicate using low-frequency sounds that travel efficiently across open space. Others use brief, precise calls timed to specific conditions. Nothing is wasted. Energy expenditure is minimized, signals are efficient, responses are direct. Even insects adapt. Some desert insects produce sounds only during short mating periods. Others rely on vibration through the ground rather than airborne sound, using the stability of sand and stone as transmission media. Sound in deserts is always purposeful. This purposefulness extends to human experience. Visitors often notice that their own movements feel louder, more noticeable. This encourages slower motion, softer steps, and greater awareness of posture and balance. The body adjusts without instruction. Speech changes too. People tend to speak more quietly in deserts, not because of rules, but because the environment responds differently. Words travel farther. Silence feels appropriate. This subtle feedback loop reinforces calm behavior. The desert, in this way, teaches through acoustics. It shows how less input can produce more clarity, how quiet environments allow perception to sharpen rather than dull. This lesson aligns with broader desert principles. Just as water moves invisibly and time unfolds slowly, sound exists briefly and meaningfully. Nothing lingers unnecessarily. Nothing overwhelms. As you imagine this acoustic landscape, wind passing steadily, footsteps isolated, long pauses between sounds, you may notice your own internal noise decreasing. Thoughts space out, breathing deepens, attention relaxes. This is not sleep yet. It is preparation. Silence creates the conditions for rest without forcing it. And as this journey through deserts approaches its final moments, the quiet we encounter here naturally leads us towards synthesis, toward understanding deserts not only as physical landscapes, but as spaces that receive and hold. Water, wind, time, life, and silence all arrive here briefly or slowly, and then move on. The desert remains. It is this receiving quality, this calm continuity, that will guide us gently into our conclusion. Throughout this journey, we have moved slowly across deserts, not as empty spaces, but as living systems shaped by time, physics, biology, and balance. We have seen deserts as places of formation, where geological forces stretch over millions of years. As climates stabilize into extremes, as rock breaks down grain by grain, and as landforms settle into wide, open geometries, we have observed how deserts manage heat, light, and water with remarkable efficiency. How life adapts not by excess, but by restraint. How survival here depends on timing, storage, and patience rather than constant activity. Now, as this journey draws to a close, we can step back and see the desert as a whole, not as a collection of isolated processes, but as a single integrated system. At its core, the desert is a place that receives. It receives sunlight, intense, steady, and predictable. It receives wind, shaping dunes, cooling surfaces, carrying fine sediments across vast distances. It receives water, rarely, briefly, and with precision. It receives time, unfolding slowly, almost imperceptibly, without urgency. Nothing arrives all at once. Nothing remains forever, and yet everything that arrives leaves a trace. Water flows through dry channels, shaping valleys that may remain empty for decades. Seeds wait beneath the surface, responding not to calendars, but to conditions. Animals move through cycles of rest and activity, guided by temperature, light, and availability, rather than clocks. The desert does not resist these forces. It accommodates them. This is one of its most defining characteristics. Unlike environments that constantly react, growing rapidly, changing dramatically, reshaping themselves in short spans, deserts respond gradually. Their changes are cumulative rather than abrupt. Erosion here is slow, transformation is subtle, continuity dominates. From a scientific perspective, this stability emerges from feedback loops that favor equilibrium. Sparse vegetation reduces competition. Limited water constrains growth. Open terrain distributes energy evenly rather than concentrating it. From a human perspective, this stability is felt as calm. The desert does not overwhelm the senses. It does not crowd attention. It does not demand constant interpretation. Instead, it offers space. This space is physical. Wide horizons, open skies, long distances between features. But it is also cognitive. Without excess stimulation, the mind naturally settles. Thoughts slow. Perception broadens. Awareness becomes less fragmented. This is why deserts have been described across cultures and disciplines as places of reflection, not because they impose silence, but because they allow it. In deserts, silence is not enforced, it emerges. Sound fades quickly. Visual clutter is minimal. Movement is deliberate. Each element exists clearly against its background. This clarity is deeply compatible with rest. When the environment is simple, the nervous system does less work. When patterns are predictable, vigilance decreases. When nothing competes for attention, awareness softens. The desert teaches rest through structure. It shows that calm is not the absence of life, but the presence of balance. Balance between heat and cold, between activity and dormancy, between scarcity and sufficiency. This balance extends to time itself. Deserts operate on long timelines. What appears unchanged is often the result of countless small adjustments. What seems static is quietly dynamic. This perspective reshapes how we understand stillness. Stillness does not mean immobility. It means movement that is slow enough to be gentle. Change that unfolds without disruption. As we integrate everything explored, geology, climate, life, sound, night, adaptation, a coherent picture emerges. Deserts are not places where nothing happens. They are places where everything happens at the right pace. This is perhaps their greatest lesson. In a world often defined by acceleration, deserts demonstrate another way of existing, a way that values efficiency over abundance, timing over speed, presence over productivity. They show that receiving is as important as acting. Receiving light, receiving water, receiving silence, receiving time. This quality of receiving mirrors what the body and mind seek when preparing for rest. As external demands decrease, the nervous system shifts from action to recovery. Breathing slows, muscles release tension, awareness turns inward. The desert does not force this transition, it supports it. And now, as this journey comes to its end, you may notice similar shifts within yourself. Your breathing may feel deeper. Your thoughts may arrive with more space between them. Your attention may feel wider, less focused on any single point. There is nothing you need to do with this. Just as deserts do not rush the rain, you do not need to rush sleep. Rest arrives when conditions are right. You can imagine yourself drifting gently above this vast landscape, dunes softening into shadow, rocks holding warmth from the day, air cooling slowly as night deepens. Below, life continues quietly. Seeds remain still. Animals rest or move softly. The land holds everything without effort. You are not required to follow every detail. You are simply invited to remain. And as this calm presence settles, you may allow your body to do what it knows how to do naturally. Let your breathing find its own rhythm. Let your muscles soften. Let the day loosen its hold. The desert does not ask for attention. It offers permission. Permission to pause. Permission to rest. Permission to drift. And so as this exploration gently fades, you can carry this sense of spacious calm with you, not as an idea, but as a feeling. A quiet continuity, a steady ground, a place that receives. And now, you may simply rest. And now, as our journey through the deserts gently comes to rest, let everything we've seen begin to settle. Wide horizons shaped by time, sand and stone molded by wind and light. Landscapes that appear empty at first glance, yet hold quiet systems of balance, endurance, and life. Deserts taught us about patience, about movement that happens slowly, almost beyond perception. They showed us how stillness can be active and how silence can be full. As you rest here now, notice how your breathing has softened, how your body feels heavier, as if gently held, much like the desert holds heat during the day and releases it slowly into the night. If this calm journey brought you comfort, you're softly invited to leave a like, subscribe, or share a quiet thought in the comments. It helps this space reach others who may also be looking for rest. But for now, there is nothing else you need to do. Let your thoughts drift like sand carried by the wind, unhurried, directionless, free to settle wherever they wish. Allow the vast calm of the desert to remain with you, steady, warm, and unchanging. May this quiet rhythm guide you gently into sleep. Good night.